Hello, brothers and sisters of the light. I have come to you today for the first time because I think it's about time I started telling my story to all of you out there, all of you believers, all of you people who are sitting on the fence, and skeptics alike, also the non-believers, what have you. I am simply here to tell my story as it has been written in my life by the angels and the beautiful powers of the universe. And I am only here telling it to you because it's the only truth I know. I only know what I've experienced, and this is no lie. So I will start out with a little talk of things that have been going on lately. I mean, everybody talks about 2012 and indigo children and whatnot, and how we're only operating on such and such an amount of DNA, and how there's going to be this great period of upliftment and enlightenment upon which DNA will be changing and blah blah blah. You can look into all of that for yourself, because this is part of it. And I am partly telling my story because of that. Um, they say that there are people who, from a very young age, are connected to the divine source and to the light, and can speak with the beings from above who give them knowledge, who are here to help. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling it like they tell me. So that is partly why, like I said, I'm telling the story, and it'll make a lot more sense the more I go on. But first, I will start at a young age, the ripe old age of 3, which is when I started having lucid dreams, um, otherwise known as astral travel. I was leaving my body and was still awake and conscious when doing so, and found that I had abilities and powers to control and have free will in my dreams, just like I do over here. And I realized this at a very young age. And this very greatly changed my experience and my understanding of reality immediately. Um, I so I started having recollections. I used to have dreams where I would recollect times before I could even walk or talk yet. By the age of 3, I was having lucid dreams where I was consciously deciding what was going to happen and which action I was going to take first. So, these kinds of things really changed my life and were only going to be the beginning. Little did I know. By the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I started showing a lot of creative abilities. Um, you know, it was clear that I was a daydreamer and had lots of thoughts in my mind, constantly being told by the teacher to pay attention. As you can guess, I was also one of those lucky children to be diagnosed with ADD and was given Ritalin for many years. Not too many, thankfully, but didn't hurt me too much. Anyway, so I was very creative, and this is kind of when some of my other powers and understanding started to develop. Um, I started walking and talking in my sleep around the age of 9 or 10, and that was quite interesting, especially the talking. It was always like I was having a conversation with somebody that you just couldn't hear the other side of the conversation with. Um, I started, in a lot of my writings from when I was a child, you could tell and see that I understood that spirits were around us and that we weren't alone. And no one was telling me these things. It was always just something that was inside of me. And I knew I came from the stars in the same sense. I remember at a very young age, probably about 8 years old, 8 or 9, we're looking up into the sky and knowing that that's where we came from, and knowing it as just a basic truth. Also, right around this time, my mother, who studied biology and is very much in love with this fine planet that we live on, introduced me to the galaxy because she is a backyard astronomer and actually built a telescope when I was a kid. And she showed me all the constellations and the planets that she could with that telescope. And the one in particular that really stood out to me was the Pleiades, otherwise known as the Seven Sisters, which is actually quite a special place on this planet. I mean, in our galaxy, and for this planet. rephrase that. And I'll get back to that later on. But this was the beginning point when, from a very young age, even my parents could see that I was getting a lot of inspiration from within and connecting to something else that was directly affecting who I was becoming as a person. So, right around the age of 9 and 10 is when things really started happening. Um, when I was having what I like to call breakthrough dreams. Like I said, I was a lucid dreamer from a very, very young age of 3, but it wasn't, and I had a couple of challenge dreams, as I like to call them, where there will be something that I have to do, either have to save one or save myself. I have to be a hero, basically, in these dreams. And I have to figure out and come to a conscious thought how I'm going to change the situation so that it's for the greater good and everyone can be happy. So, when I was 9, I'm going to tell you about a couple of these dreams. I started having these breakthrough dreams. One of which I greatly affected everything, and was really one of those breakthrough moments. Was a dream where I was on this incredibly high path up in the sky, and so high that the clouds were around me on either side, and I was on this 3-foot path walking forward, and I could see out in front of me how it tilted at a certain point. And I'm looking at it thinking, there's no way I can walk across this point without falling, because it was too steep. There was nothing I could do about it. But I couldn't turn back, and for some reason decided not to turn back, because I wanted to walk that path. So I decided to go forward, and of course, once I got to the incredibly steep side of the path, with nothing to hold on to on either side anywhere, it was just a freestanding platform / trail, I slipped and fell. Now, I was a kid when I had this dream. I was probably 7 years old. Or between 7 and 9, I'm not sure. But basically, young enough that, you know how kids talk on the playground. We had all been talking, and oh, I hear if you die in your dreams, you die in real life. And how it can really happen. So I remembered that and was terrified. That thought came into my mind as I'm falling in the dream, and still in my astral body. And I think to myself, oh my God, I'm going to die. This is it. This is it. I'm going to die. I don't want to die. What am I going to do? I have to stop this from happening. So, this is all happening as I'm swiftly falling down to the ground. I hit the ground, and at the moment I hit the ground, instead of hitting it and dying, or getting so scared that I wake up, I stayed in the dream and altered my body so that when it hit the ground, it would turn into a puddle of liquid, and then it came back together. So it went splat, and then came right back up into one solid being again. And there I was, completely unharmed, and looking out at a forest that was at the bottom of this cliff that I had just fallen off of. So that was pretty amazing for me, because I wasn't dead, A, and B, I had changed my physical composition willingly and knowingly, and survived. I cheated death in my dream. So, and then also afterwards went on to have to rescue one of my friends from this horrible river of sludge that was there too. The whole dream had a lot of challenges, like I said, that forced me to decide whether or not I was going to try and change the reality or fight it, basically. I'll move on though, because there's many other dreams and I can't tell you them all right now. This is in the 9 to 10 stage also when I started having conscious waking visions. Those of which I have all the time at this age of 26. But it started right around then. And at that age, it was only right before I fell asleep. And a lot of people experience this, where you'll be falling asleep, and you'll be in between your waking and dreaming state, and you'll start to see colors or images flash on your mind screen, so to speak, or the dark space behind your eyes when you close your eyes. And a lot of people see things there too. And one day, I was lying in bed, falling asleep, and this figure appeared to me clear as day, like it was standing right across, but my eyes were closed, and it looked like a queen. And she looked at me and kind of laughed, and then all of a sudden, like on the slot machines, they have the flip clocks, how they flip